29th day today of May 2024. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a great day today. I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm Dana Durnford. I'm also known as the Nuclear Proctologist.org, and you can call in at 709-589-4406. 4406. I'm going to have to take a bit of teeter to cut the throat a little bit. How did we do last night? Let's start off with something relatively simple. We had 3 views after the show was over. It's pretty good after a decade. Thanks, YouTube. We had 66 viewers. In another decade, we're hoping to have 70 or 80. At 11 hours, we had 113.43. At the end of the show was 113.43. 12 hours later, the video always changes. 113.50. So we gained an extra 7 seconds. That always happens at the 12th hour. The comments show up at 12 hours. My video is censored anyway, but the first 12 hours is brutal. So we had heavy rains all day today. There's some videos for everybody and pictures at the end of it. That's how much came out of that package, that $50 package of fiberglass cloth. But just because it's raining,
so
I ain't going to stop Dana. No, sorry, Bob. I'm pretty stoked.
That spot down there.
I got wet boots and jackets and caps to prove it.
Freaking raining like crazy.
We'll show you a bunch of that stuff coming up later. We had progress today. Tomorrow's going to be 19 degrees, so tomorrow I'll weld everything up. I got everything let go, everything jacked up. I'll show you those stuff at the end of the show. U.S. affirms continued support for Norway in downblending HALEU, high assay uranium, high-grade uranium, basically. They always got this. That's the only time they've ever smiled in about 4 years, probably, either one of them. They probably had to get AI to make the picture because they don't know how to smile. They issued a joint statement concerning minimization of highly enriched uranium, the HALEU, highly enriched. And downblending is meant to get it down below 20%. Guess what they're going to downblend it with? Uranium. So they're going to make fuel out of it is what they're going to do. It's just a polite way of not telling you. To ultimately enable Norway to join the list of high assay uranium free states. The Norway Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries signed a memorandum of understandings. Japan does the same thing where the fisheries are in charge of nuclear waste. Makes sense, really, because that's where most of us don't. A cooperative project eliminated all of Norway's highly enriched uranium by downblending it with thorium and natural uranium to it's thoroughly mixed with depleted uranium, which has already gone through a chain reaction, to reduce the uranium-235 concentrations, which is a really interesting statement, isn't it? Below 20%. And I guess they're going to use it to make munitions, are they? The challenge has been that much of Norway's remaining highly enriched uranium is mixed with thorium, making other disposition techniques more challenging. And so the memorandum of understanding calls for small-scale downblending activity to begin in 2022 using Norway's infrastructure So they want to get the uranium-235 concentration below 20%, which is still high grade. Nano-nuclear energy announces as one of the elite sponsors of the American Nuclear Society 2024 annual conference. Yes. We got a poll tonight. Would nano-nuclear small modular reactors, because their reactors are going to fit on the back of a transport truck. They just released a video 2 weeks ago on their YouTube channel. We're going to show you some funny stuff from that in a few moments. Would nano-nuclear small modular reactors sent on trucks be massive dirty bombs when they catch fire in collisions? You'll understand that more. This is like, if you're going to ship a small modular reactor on a truck, you better pray for no accidents. And if they're going to make thousands of them all in different companies all over the world, how many accidents we're going to have? These are massive dirty bombs we're talking about. We'll get there. Hang on. So they're on a stock exchange. They don't even have a reactor. An emerging vertically integrated microreactor, an advanced nuclear technology company. Advanced. Like, the less product they got, the more descriptive they are for some reason. Like, how can anybody invest with them when they don't even have a product? It cracks me up. It's a Ponzi scheme, right? Just like Newtech or NewScale. Announced today that is one of the elite sponsors, and will be exhibiting at they're going to exhibit a fictional reactor, something that doesn't exist, at the upcoming American Nuclear Society. These are one of the 60 new reactor companies created in the last 2 years for small modular reactors. They all got their own designs. It's just so stupid. And geothermal can do whatever they're doing way better and right away. It actually exists. The stakes have never been higher to be held in Las Vegas from June the 16th to June the 19th at the casino, of course. There's a great spot to have a nuclear meeting at a casino. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. A leading sponsor of the conference Tuesday, our friends the Isotope. Our friends the Isotope. It's so easy to be evil, see? Our friends the Isotope. Like, it's hard to comprehend the nightmarish reality of what they're actually talking about. They want to induct people to think of isotopes as their friends when they're teaching their children that it's their enemy, never get near it, right? Advanced reactor safety. They're going to have topic meetings on advanced reactor safety, but there is no advanced reactors. James Walker, the chief executive officer and the head of the reactor development of nano-nuclear energy. Nano. They never expected for everybody to come on board. Our friends, the nuclear, moderated by Catherine Pratt from Westinghouse Electric Company. They went bankrupt in America, didn't they? We'll explore how isotopes are pivotal in the fields like medical treatments and sterilization. Yeah, sterilizes all the insects, the birds, the animals, humans. And you can't use it for medical treatment. Like, how can you take a foreign object that there's nothing on the planet with autoimmune trigger to defend against it and call it a medical treatment? With I can bring up endless studies on the adverse side effects of this so-called medical treatment. Medical therapy is what they call it, right? The adverse side effects are hideous. Let me give you an example. It's just, we're here, might as well do something, they said. Pick on the nuclear industry, he said. Sure, I said. Sounds like a lark. Therapy. That folder scares me. Therapy. There once was a therapy. Hang on, we're almost there. I swear on a nuclear scientist's life, we're almost there. Because, like, a lot of people just buy into it, right? They don't question anything. Not a lot, but almost everybody. They just... If the media tells you or somebody would call a professor or a doctor or academic, most people just submit like useful idiots. When you look a little deeper, then you start wondering, crap, this world is messed up, baby. Okay. I'm only going to show you 20. Let me go through the first 20. Radiation therapy. There's another word for radiation therapy, medical treatment. It's called radiation injury, and it's called a silent epidemic. Radiation-induced injuries to the eyeballs / visual pathways. Radiation injuries to the heart. Get your radiation injury over here, $5. All you can suffer. Cardiac injury following treatments for breast cancer. Radiation-induced kidney injuries. Hypoxia from radiation therapy. Blood spinal cord barrier disruption. That sounds like a hoot, eh? Everybody should get one of them. Central nervous system radiation injuries. Radiation-induced lung injuries. Radiation-induced bowel injuries. Radiation-induced kidney injuries. You kind of getting the picture here. Breast litigation, radiation injuries. Central nervous systems, radiation injuries. Cranial nerve, following proton beam treatment. Properties protect the lungs from radiation-induced injuries. Really nothing does, but there are some things that actually do help a little bit. The best way is just don't get it done to your loved ones and yourself. Radiation injury to the head and neck. Good old radiation injury. Brain necrosis. Everybody gets a dose of that one. Brain injuries. We're almost through it. Radiation lung injuries. Small bowel radiation injuries. Radiation-related breast injuries. There's a lot of studies on that, man. Radiation-induced normal tissue injuries. My favorite, erectile injuries from radiation-induced. So you go and get radioactive treatment for one place, isotope treatment, and then everything else goes kaput for the rest of your life. Nanonuclear tends to focus its business development activities for micro-reactors, but they're on the stock exchange. And they'll get around to it, just like NuScale, Dan. Including data centers, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, crypto mining, military application. Real nice people, eh? There's real scumbags of society, these people. Transportation, including shipping. Oh, I got to have nanotechnology to run the ships. What could possibly go wrong? Floating Cheronobyls everywhere. And they're a bunch of hotheads too, eh? I can prove it. Nanonuclear aims to support a diverse range of clean energy. Pacemakers. Little reactors in your toothbrush. You'll never have to buy another toothbrush. The American nuclear, we've seen that before, haven't we? Nuclear industry, they used to have radioactive makeup, radioactive lipstick, radioactive hand cream, radioactive soap, radioactive suppositories. Like, the word monster just doesn't do it justice. And they knew what they were doing. Everything, the entire history of nuclear, every facet of it, when you look at it, you're like, screams, scumbags. It just screams it at you. These are degenerate scum. Speaking of degenerate scum, the American Nuclear Society is the premier organization for scumbags. I mean, those that embrace the nuclear degenerate science and technology for their vital contributions to improving people's lives and Preserving the planet. Radiation is the reason we haven't got a planet anymore. Radioactive fallout is the reason that everybody got heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline problems. It's the reason all the animals are showing up emaciated. To have that incredible arrogance put the word nuclear and preserving the planet and people's lives in the same conversation. They should get 15 years in jail for even trying to suggest that. Nano-nuclear subsidiary is led by the former executive from the largest transportation company in the world, aiming to build a North American transportation company, a big mobile dirty bomb, that will provide commercial quantities of HALEU, highly enriched uranium fuel, to small modular reactors, micro-reactors, national laboratories, militaries, Department of Energy programs. The industries, if they're looking for useful idiots like this, they'll give them everything they need. They're going to be incredibly successful, wealthy. They're going to get it all. And they'll kill everything in the meantime doing it. Their main targets, of course, is children. Through nano-nuclear, I'm sorry, Dana, getting ahead of myself here. AFT is exclusively licensee, we've covered this before, of a patented high capacity. Well, we've covered them since their inception, actually. Just about every headline that's ever come out about them, we've covered it. This is why I become mockery at some point of a patented high capacity HALEU fuel transportation basket. Well, they didn't develop it. It was developed by 3 major U.S. national laboratories, not by them. They're just useful venues, right? Funded by the Department of Energy on top of that. They've been making the rounds in the bars late at night, these guys. Nano-nuclear energy YouTube. And I was like, oh, that'll be fun. Let's go check that out. And here's the 2 major... The first thing they said was they never expected their company to catch on. They were just jumping in the wave, right? And then they got all this traction. All they got to do is come up with a product and their parents will be proud of them. And this is their whole YouTube channel. They got 356 subscribers. And they'll get in the conversation and fight you too in the comment section. They don't mind fighting with you in the comment section. That gets good. I'll show you that. So this is it fits on the back of a transport truck and it goes booting down the highway. And comes to these little villages. Quaint little villages as the sun is setting and everybody's using their lights. Ho ho! Got people out in fishing boats. And they got their Zeus's small modular reactor, keeping the lights running out in the middle of nowhere. Off-grid and remote areas, where all the precious resources are. When it melts down, it contaminates it forever. And they're going to be using high mixed oxide fuel in it. That's a doozy, man. That's a massive dirty bomb right there. But when I was looking at it, that's the turbine right there. These are all fantasy pictures. It doesn't exist, right? This is just their version of, this is how it's going to work. And we're going to make a lot of money. We'll have a lot of birdies. So look at all these dirty bombs going down the road. What happens if a tanker smacks into that and starts burning? Well, they're going to have multiple ones on the road at the same time. What's it going to be like in wintertime driving down the road with these things, I wonder? And they even look to put the winter scene, but not driving down the road because they don't want that in people's memories. Military applications. These guys in mining companies, right? Stay up to date with nano-nuclear energy. Ho ho! Their favorite cartoon is Mickey Mouse, I heard. This is them replying to the comment section. You sound so uneducated, it makes you look weird. I was really shocked to see him do that. Don't play with fire if you can't handle the heat. You get what you ask for. If you ask intelligent questions, you get intelligent responses. Act nasty, You get nasty responses. This is supposed to be leader in nuclear. So I left a comment for him. Say a tanker truck runs directly into it and they both burn. How many bananas and bags of potato chips is that equal to? Laugh out loud. And so 0 seconds, there's my comment. When I refresh the page, no comment. Hard cases, eh? They're not childish, they're childlike, right? They really are children. That's who these people actually are. They're useful idiots. The industry recognized that. They're going to have these dirty bombs, and they got the vents on the top of it. They're going to have these dirty bombs bombing down the highway. Yes, my comment didn't show up once I refreshed the page. Nuclear CEO James Walker comments on the nuclear energy renaissance. Like, what are you talking about? There is no nuclear renaissance. Stop lying. Look at that big dirty bomb. That's what the industry does, though, right? A robot will soon try to remove the molten nuclear fuel from... And so when we talk about the pole, that's what we're talking about. Would nano-nuclear small modular reactors sent on trucks be massive dirty bombs when they catch fire in collisions? Some of them are going to catch fire in collisions. Simply, that's just the way it works. A robot will soon try to remove the melted nuclear fuel from Japan's destroyed Fukushima reactor. Will soon try to remove the melted nuclear fuel. As soon as I seen it, I started yawning. And so this is a robot. I don't know what they spent on it, $80 million or something. And the first time they're going to use it, it's going to have tongs on it like you use. This is the top of the robot. It's just an arm, not even an arm. It's just your typical, there's a name for it, actuator, and they just extend out. And it's going to have tongs, and then the tongs can close and open. It took them quite a long time to make it, too. It was millions and millions and millions of dollars in research and development, and there's all kinds of delays. They wouldn't get up and go to work for a lot of days. They were just too busy spending money. They were throwing it around like confetti, apparently. But anyway, the minute you put this near high level fuel, because you can see the electronics up there, just gonna crash right away. Not only that, the minute you put the two tongs like you use for picking up your solids, they're going to pick up maybe 3 grams, what they're hoping to recover. No, Dana, they're going to get all the nuclear fuel out of it. We've been making fun of this for a couple of years. And now it's gone to stupid mode. Once that goes near hot fuel, you can never get near it. And they got this platform where that's going to be. You won't be able to get on the platform. It's a one-shot pony, basically. So it's meant to put out them salacious headlines. It's going to retrieve a tiny, tiny, itty-bitty amount of melted fuel debris. We'll soon try to remove the melted nuclear fuel, right? And just all kinds of media is running with these types of headlines. Some are even crazier. It's going to assist in fixing the damaged reactors. It's going to do no such thing. Fixing, Associated Press, fixing. His job is to pick up a couple of grams. It's a one-shot deal, right? But you never know that from reading the headlines. Fixing. Ha ha. And they show you, I don't know what they're showing you a flag for. South Korea, U.S., and Japan, nuclear envoys condemn North Korea's satellite launch. So why would you invoke the word nuclear when they're not putting nuclear up in the satellite? So why would you use the word nuclear in that statement? So North Korea, just hang on a second. I got some really good input for that if I can find it. It's been a while, hasn't it? I don't remember last time so I don't know if I'll recognize you. Just give me a moment. Humor me. So North Korea was occupied by Japan for 50 years. And then you had Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? And then North Korea tried to break free after being enslaved for 50 years. But South Korea, which was friends with Japan, didn't want them to be free. So they had this conflict. So United Nations has just changed its name from League of Nations to United Nations. And decided they're going to do a police action, and they used more ordnance, more munitions than the entire World War II theater on little tiny North Korea. Because United Nations wanted the precious resources in the mountains in that country, right? Yeah, I probably won't find it. That's okay though. But anyway, what they done in North Korea, I'm so close to it. What they done in North Korea, unfortunately, I don't think I'll find it right now, but because they committed so many crimes against humanity that we can't keep up with it. Oh, I got it. Here we go. Well, this is a complicated story, so just give me 1 second. I put this over here. And let me import this in. So, for 70 years, they've been captured by the United Nations. And they've been ostracized from humanity for 70 years. And before that was 50 years because of Japan. So for 120 years, North Korea has been victimized. Has been a victim. Here we go. We burned down every town in North Korea, every village, every town with napalm. So they were targeting the civilians, obviously, right? Napalm bombing. And the napalm is this hideous mixture of gasoline where it sticks to everything in globs. And so the burns are usually right to the bones. And it's just evil. 65 years after the U.S. burnt down every town in North Korea, the U.S. military is now simultaneously bombing or rocketing 7 different non-nuclear countries. 8th Army chemical officer is quoted as saying, on an average good day, pilots in the Korean War dropped 70,000 gallons of napalm, 45,000 from the U.S. Air Force, 10 to 20,000 from the Navy, 4 to 5,000 by the Marines. So every division of the military was napalming the civilians. The Marines, who nicknamed the burning jellied gasoline cooking oil, and perhaps 2 million Koreans north and south, the numbers are more to 4 or 5 million actually, were killed in the Korean War, all in the name of opposing the rule of force. This was North Korea's chance to break free of Japan after 50 years of being occupied, because they left after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And United Nations showed up, and it's like having an animal in a cage, and you go there every day and you stab it with a stick for about half the day. 4 million casualties, at least 2 million were civilians. After Truman fired General MacArthur in May 1951, the former Supreme Commander testified to Congress the war in Korea has already almost destroyed the nation of 20 million people. And he said, I had never seen such devastation. I have seen, I guess, as much blood and disaster as any living man. And it just curled in my stomach the last time I was there. After I looked at the wreckage and those thousands of women and children. I vomited. I vomited. So South Korea failed to launch. The failed launch was a direct violation of the UN, who has been imprisoned them now for 70 years. Every man, woman, and child has been denied the ability to leave the country because of the siege against them. United Nations is perpetuating constantly genocides against the most impoverished countries worldwide. Poses a serious threat to the regional peace and security. The UN, by them having their own satellites, the UN said. So how can the UN suggest that a country trying to be developed and trying to protect itself from UN, of course, mini nuclear power stations may produce more waste than larger ones? And let me zoom in on that a bit. Naturally less efficient research, and they're less efficient. This is what we're going to use the high assay fuel, the very high grade uranium. It's a military grade. They have found that small modular reactors could increase the volume of short-lived and low and intermediate level waste, the two lowest of the three categories, by up to 35 times. So 35 times more low and intermediate level waste. And for long-lived equivalent waste, it would produce up to 30 times more. And for spent nuclear fuel, up to 5 times more. So NuScale is going to be a nightmare for humanity. They don't care, though. As long as they make money, they're all good. And the military's got hold of them now, so they can never do anything but be evil. And you should put that story in your bookmark if you find it. Many nuclear power stations may produce more waste than large ones. They're naturally less efficient, researchers find. And let's go over that again. There's the stupid NuScale. And look at a picture with NuScale where they got one family, 2 families, and a husband and wife. It's unbelievable, how these people think. That small modular reactor could increase the volume of short-lived, low, and intermediate level waste by up to 35 times for both of those. For high-level waste, with 30 times more, and for fuel rods, just perpetual. So the high-level waste, 30 times more, that's still splitting atoms, and the fuel rods are still splitting atoms. They will for millions of years. Even if the world does opt for nuclear power, fossil fuel will be the major source of energy. Well, you can't have nuclear without gas, oil, and coal plants to supply them because you can't run on their own power. So I doubt climate change activists have any idea of how much the world would need to change in order to meet their net zero targets in any near term. And the word net zero, of course, was created by Miles Allen. And United Nations took it and used it now to bludgeon humanity with. And he got a cushy job at Cambridge in the United Kingdom. Hi everybody. How's everybody going? Hee-haw. So how's our poll going? I might as well touch on that. Would nanonuclear small modular reactors sent on trucks via massive, these are mixed oxide fuel small reactors, be massive dirty bombs when they catch fire and burn? Russia's claiming NATO is planning a nuclear strike. Yesterday, that was the theme yesterday, nuclear strikes, Russia. Once a week, they have the Russia nuclear bomb day for the media. Once a week, we get the small modular reactor days. They change the days up. Keeps us interested. FSB, which is a Russian intelligence chief, had accused NATO countries, which is carrying out the proxy war through Ukraine against Russia. Strikes on the Russian territory as tensions between the Kremlin and alliance continue to grow. Coolant leak causes Perry nuclear plant Lake County to shut down, NRC says. And Lake County, why did he wait 2 days before he told you? Or why did he wait a week? Why did he wait for a week before they told us? Because that's the first I heard of it in a week, right? I gotta get some water. Hang on. I'm gonna turn the volume down. There you go. Now the politeness is no longer needed. We'll turn the volume back on. Yippee-ki-yay! Tells 3 News in an email. How you know it was them who told you that? There was no negative impact on public safety. God bless nuclear. The source of the leak was identified and been stopped, the agency said, so shut up, you bunch of anti-nuclears. I can't remember which one this is. I got it as coming up later in another story. That picture is pretty famous. So what do you notice with these ocean tests in the Marshall Islands? They named it the Bikini Atolls in order to try to downplay it, right? To turn it into sex, right? Because back in those days, you know, bikini became the cool word, right? But it's a hot word, a deadly word, because there's implications. And so this is in the 50s. These ocean tests, they noticed all of those ships, and you see in the background, were so radioactive they couldn't go near them because of a phenomenon from heating up the ocean to these enormous temperatures. You liberated the sulfur, and the sulfur... hang on a second, I suppose. If you're going to talk about it, might as well talk about it. Like... the sulfur... It's in a folder called Documenting a Genocide. I've been using that folder for a very long time, My eyes are not working tonight. I thought I was in the buckyballs. Here we go. So the 2 pictures I'm going to show you are from a study talking about buckyballs. Let me see if I can find one of the studies. Yeah, here's one of them. Uranol peroxide. It's sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs is basically the description of these things. And so what they do is they form this sulfur, this spherical shape. This spherical shape. Spherical shapes. Sometimes I I overexpanded for the screen, right? So it's able to ingest uranium, curium, plutonium, etc., isotopes, hot particles, and they become super hot. These are little nuclear engines, and they pulse energy at the speed of light every second. So whenever you think of the anthropogenic man-made atom, think of a nuclear engine. These are nuclear engines. So they're very mobile because they pulse all this energy every second, almost at the speed of light. And so it's actually able to move itself around. It's able to suspend itself. It's so small. But it's also able to be mobile. But what they discovered about the sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs, as I like to call them, uranol peroxide buckyballs, right? That's why we call them buckyballs, because you'll see that in the study, these pictures. And these are super hot particles. So when you ingest it, or an animal, or a bird, or an insect, or a kid, or whatever, that's nasty, right? Your body attacks it ruthlessly now. So it attacks the isotope in your body, the anthropogenic man-made isotopes in your body, with white blood cells for the rest of your life. That's why I was making fun of our friend the isotope quote from Nano Nuclear. Because they're not your friend, right? When the man-made isotope gets in your body attacks with white blood cells for the rest of your life. It tries to build a sarcophagus around it. You call it a tumor. So these explosions in the ocean created a prolific amount of those. And what that meant was this was very hot. And this wasn't Castle Bravo. It's the same place as Castle Bravo. It's the same place as Castle Bravo. Castle Bravo was equal to 1,000, almost 1,000 of these. I think that was 27 kilotons, that one. Yeah, here we go. I got the video Castle Bravo that I clipped out of a documentary. So this was a nuclear test. And it was lethal doses 5,000 miles away.
The whole picture of fallout contamination becomes of increasing importance with high-yield weapons. In one program, drone ships were sent into fallout areas to evaluate the worth of a washdown system for ship decontamination. We found we could measure fallout even in large ocean areas by making aerial surveys using extremely sensitive radiation detection equipment and with surface craft such as tugs and destroyers. As a result of these measurements, we were able to document for the first time fallout data from high-yield detonations. It is now known that fallout from the larger Castle shots blanketed areas of more than 5,000 square miles with radioactive material that would have been lethal to unprotected personnel. This one result gives a new insight into a method for using high-yield weapons in both strategic and tactical situations.
1,000-mile lethal doses. On the 6th of May, Russia's President Vladimir Putin announced he had authorized a military exercise involving the deployment of tactical nuclear weapons in southern Russia. To my knowledge, this is the first time such an announcement has been made since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Company news: Veronica Fisher was named a resident inspector at Fitzpatrick Nuclear Power Plant. Yay, Veronica, congratulations. How many people do you think you'll kill in your career, I wonder? 1 million, 2 million? From cancers, heart problems, liver problems, lung problems. Fisher joined at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in July 2022. Promotion comes quick, I guess. So the Nuclear Regulatory Apprenticeship Network program. I'd like to join that. I don't have to do much to it besides being evil. Japan unveils a new robot for cleaning the radioactive fuel. No, they didn't. It's interesting how those headlines. This is Gizmodo, which is a major science junk site, right? It gets traded among the public relation firms all the time. It's very popular because of that. They got a lot of weight, right? So they get it out into the mainstream, and all the kids and all the mom and pops, they ends up at this site looking for technology, and they get indoctrinated. They unveil a robot for cleaning radioactive fuel, but this it's completely nothing to do with cleaning nuclear fuel. It's not going to fix it. It's not removing the fuel. It's to get a sample. And they know that because he wrote it in the story. You can pick up a small amount of radioactive fuel, and the cleanup's going to take 30 to 40 years, and notice that probably way too optimistic given the current rate of the robot development. They actually got children, 16-year-olds, working on a robot in Sellafield, United Kingdom. After 80 years, they still can't figure it out on their own. No, it's too complicated. I'm not doing it. Well, here's a couple of $1 million. Give it a try. No, not touching it. I work in the nuclear industry. There's easy ways to do it. The current plan is for cleanup to take somewhere between 30 to 40 years. The meltdown killed one person from radiation and sickened dozens more with cancer or other injuries. So they're talking about Fukushima. They're saying Fukushima killed one person from radiation and sickened dozens more with cancer and other injuries. Geez, I can't believe they even admitted 2 dozen. But let me show you some reality to that story. Good old nuclear. Yeah, if it wasn't for nuclear, evil people wouldn't have anything to do. Let me see what we got here. Heart attacks. Yeah, let's try that folder. That's usually a pretty fun folder. Extreme increases in mortality by cardiac diseases. Death rates might give the creeps to some people. Not nuclear, obviously, but people. In just a single month, there was an extra 12,700 people died of heart attacks. Extra 2,000 people dying of cancers, and cardiac diseases was up 14.6%. Being evil just comes natural is the problem, see? There was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. No, Dana, there was only one person killed. Apparently the death rate might give the creeps to some people. No, Dana, it was only one person. Yeah, but there was 865,000 extra cancers. Not everybody was diagnosed. Not everybody got health care. Cancer is not the only issue. There's heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. I mean, the first studies are going to do after nuclear accident is Down syndrome and autism. What does that tell us? NG asks for another $500 million to decommission. I think it's 5 or 6 nuclear plants. They need more money. 90% of the money goes to administration, so they always need. $600 million compensation from the Belgian government to dismantle nuclear reactors it operated in Belgium because it spent all the money for decommissioning. Out of a total dismantling cost of $8.4 billion, they need another $600 million. So they already got $8.4 billion to decommission some of their reactors. Nuclear's so green, carbon-free. Makes me sick, boy. Plan to restart the world's biggest nuclear disease factory sparks Fukushima fears. This is the one up by Nagata Prefecture. Over a decade after the Fukushima, and it's right on the fault line, that city where the two had 6,900 homes that were destroyed by liquefaction from an earthquake from a fault line not that far away, 100 miles away, from a fault line that's 3,000 years old, that never erupted for 3,000 years and just it erupted on January the 1st, right? And the fault line does go close to this place or directly under it. No, we're doing it. The Kariwa nuclear power plant in Niigata prefecture. As the country's energy needs soar, but correct me if I'm wrong, the population is declining like never before. The population is aging like never before. The country's not, right, their GDP is not exploding, it's going down too because they have a smaller population, right? There's less babies being born. So there really isn't an energy needs, right? They can already contain it. They can do it with geothermal, they just refuse to do it. Kishida asked a senior Chinese official to lift a marine import ban. Like they're working together, right, to perpetrate the tritium version of what's going on, right? So the official story, which is pretty fun, you never get bored with the official story, is nothing got out of the building to your left. I know what you're saying now, Dana. It's probably all got out by the looks of that. No, I can assure you nothing got out. That's the official story. They wouldn't lie to you. Nuclear industry, for God's sakes. Yeah, well, technically they picked up 30 million one-ton bags, so a little bit leaked out, right? That's a leak. 30 million one-ton bags, that's a leak. That's not a lot, is it? I'm just making fun, by the way. Somebody's like, Dana, why are you saying that? A robot will soon try to remove the melted nuclear fuel from Japan's destroyed Fukushima reactor. That story got some traction, eh? Ha ha, they're going to remove, Dana, they're going to remove the melted fuel with a fucking robot. Leave it alone. Go find someone else to pick on. A remote control robot will retrieve a tiny, itty bitty bits of melted fuel debris. No, it's going to remove the melted nuclear fuel. Dana, I've seen it in the fucking news. It was on Facebook and everything. This picture's getting a lot of traction, isn't it? Oh, Mary Yamaguchi. You know Mary Yamaguchi. The one that comes up with the cover story over and over and over. We got her documented back to 2013. Yes, Yahoo. They named it right though, didn't they, Yahoo? It was the right name for that a lot. Japan nuclear power plant operator unveiled a robot to assist in fixing the damaged reactor. See, Dana's gonna fix it. You're gonna fucking fix it. Fix it. Dana's gonna fix it. I'll fix you. You no good two-timing. My apologies. Hang on here again. A little excited sometimes. She's going to fix that, look. I wonder how they're going to do that. Well, then they're going to use sawdust and newspaper and some crazy glue, and they're going to start stuffing all the holes, Dana. Actually, we got headlines saying that's what they done, right? And that they fixed all the leaks, and it was like 3 weeks or something. Well, they couldn't fix it, so here's what they done, right? They stripped down the remains of the buildings, and they put these contraptions over it. And they don't show you these pictures. And what it was a couple of pictures, it was a single picture, rather, that showed up in the Japanese media. And those days, you used to be able to just download it right from the page, just grab the picture. They stopped you doing that after I came out with a video and made these pictures. I was able to zoom in on these pictures. You can see all the debris there. You can see the buildings are destroyed. But the reality of it is the covers are over those buildings. Just because you put cover it over don't mean it doesn't look like that underneath it. The covers don't physically touch it. So the idea was to put these covers over it and pretend that they're in the buildings. Now the buildings blew up. Reactor 1 and Reactor 3. Which is really interesting. So why didn't we see the explosion at Reactor 4? Because I bet you that was a pretty fucking good explosion over there. The official story is it looks like this. But there's no video to show what it really looks like. Yeah, slippery bunch, these people. No, Dana, the Canadian press said that The Japanese nuclear power plant operators are unveiling a robot, and they're going to assist in fixing the damaged reactor. Dana? Wow, that's great. You seen it on what? Twitter? Instagram? Facebook? Yeah, Dana, and all of them. It must be true. Oh, yeah, I guess so, boy. So, what's your version of damage? Look at the shithead there. What's your version of damage? Does that fit into your version of damage? I like to call them destroyed, personally. I'm not going to be prejudiced or bigoted or biased or racist. I say the Japs will say the same thing, that it's destroyed. So the robot is equipped with tongs. Can't even say it without laughing. It's equipped with tongs. Let's look at this sweetie. Look at this. It's pretty impressive, isn't it? Wish I had something like that. I would never ask for nothing else. I'd be happy. And they're going to remove less than 3 grams. Yeah, it's going to assist in fixing it by removing 3 grams from buildings that don't even exist. A robot to assist in, there's not enough headlines. There's fixing it. Well, no, less than 3 grams. 2 nuclear reactors in central Japan get 20 years life extension. In a country, and this is not very far away from the Noto Peninsula, the Ishikawa Prefecture. In fact, these nuclear power plants are right on the edge of where the January 1st earthquake, it shut down everything from there all the way up to the nuclear plants that are currently going to open. Like, if you're going to open a nuclear plant, and there's a fault line right up there where 70 kilometers of the coastline on the Noto Peninsula was jacked up in the air 13 feet permanently. Like, it's hard to wrap your mind around what I'm saying, because there's 1,500 landslides on that peninsula alone. All the other prefectures that were completely ostracized because of the land fractured, right? The Takahama nuclear plant is central Japan, aging, and brittled. They're going to continue operating for. Why not just give them a 10-year extension? Why give them a 20-year extension, for goodness sakes? But give them a 5-year extension, or maybe even not 20 years, though. That's crazy stuff. So the Nuclear Regulatory Authority decision makes the 2 reactors facility in the Fukushima Prefecture the 7th and 8th reactor nationwide eligible for extensions after 40 years of operation. So normally they would shut these disease factories down at 40 years because the vessels become brittle due to radiation. No, due to the neutron bombardment, right? The beta rays, the alpha rays, the gamma shines. Not just radiation, but hardcore radiation. Following the Fukushima, the operational lifespan of Japan nuclear reactors was limited to 40 years. And then the next administration, we can give another 20 years. We're pro-nuclear. We can do shit like that. The Royal Canadian Navy, Canada has 3 submarines. They're all at the West Edmonton Mall in Alberta, right? Royal Canadian Navy not considering nuclear-powered subs, despite Trudeau's claim. So Trudeau come out and just surprised the shit out of everybody. We're getting nuclear submarines. His last evil deed, I guess, before he leaves, it just wrecked the country. But why would Canada need a nuclear submarine? How the fuck do we ever get this stupid? The possibility of the acquisition of a nuclear power fleet was introduced by Trudeau on April 8 during a news conference. He didn't rule out considering a nuclear powered fleet Oh, he doesn't care about anything. Only the military-industrial complex, right? His comments came as a surprise to the departmental and military officials, defense sources confirmed. No mention was made of the nuclear option in the policy update. And it's believed the Prime Minister misspoke. But officials were not allowed to correct that, according to the defense sources, and the Prime Minister's office did not provide a comment. The military-industrial complex must have been rolling over laughing. They told him that, right? You make sure you're saying you're getting nuclear submarines or we'll JFK the shit out of you. But the price tag is significant. Australia wants to purchase at least 5 nuclear-powered submarines with help from the United States and Britain. And Aussie governments has estimated the program, they're the friggin' lowest forms of life to the Australian government. My goodness, they're stupid. Will cost $300 billion over 30 years. Actually, I thought it was 300, and they're going to have the submarines in 2030s, and it was going to be 368 billion, not 300 billion. And there's zero possibility they're going to get it for 368 billion. Everybody knows that. It's zero possibility that they're going to come in on the bid. It's zero possibility. So expect it to at least double. Like 368 billion, half of that is enough to geothermal for the whole country at $5 million a megawatt. Well, just do the math yourself. Now let's give it to the military-industrial complex and barbarize the country that we need nuclear power because we need energy. Nothing else can provide it. Only nuclear. Nuclear is the only thing that matters. That's what we're seeing now post-Conference of Parties 28, right? The Constipated Party 28. Royal Canadian Navy not considering nuclear-powered subs despite the Trudeau claim. Australia wants to purchase at least 5 nuclear-powered submarines. Back to that story. 300 billions over 30 years. And, you know, there are stories out there that say 30 years. The other story says by 2030. I got no idea how they're going to pull that off. The Canadians were told, Defense Minister Sanjab was told, it was going to be a 15-year total from project establishment to first delivery and could exceed 25 years to get their first submarines. It could exceed, so it could be 30 years, it could be 35 years. Told the defense minister, and I don't know, I'm going to butcher his name if I try to pronounce it, Harjit Sanjan. And if you look at his career, he's an incredible career here in Canada. Holy shit. He done it all. He served as the Minister of Emergency Preparedness and President of the Privacy Council since July 26, 2023, a member of the Liberal Party. He was baptized as a sheik when he was a teenager and seen as a way to get away from the bad crowds, such as his classmate Bindi Johal, who became a notorious gangster. Oh, this guy became a bit of a gangster too, by the looks of it. Sanjad left his position with the Vancouver Police. He was a detective in British Columbia. But stayed as a reservist and started his own consulting business that taught intelligence gathering techniques to Canadian and American military personnel. So he's really entrenched, right? His alleged links with the Khalistan movement has caused diplomatic friction with the Punjab former chief minister, Singh. He also faced allegations from the New Democratic Party that he's playing down his connection to the detainee controversy during the Afghan combat mission, Medusa. This is where they took children to Guantanamo Bay, the Canadian CSIS, and then waterboarded them allegedly with Dr. Pepper, because it's illegal to do it with water, so they used Dr. Pepper. That's a joke, by the way. Playing down his connection to detainees' controversies during his Afghan... There was quite a few controversies he created himself where he took and who knows, he might have been telling the truth, where Canadians handed over prisoners to torture by Afghan authorities, and CSIS apparently was involved in it. Because I covered it back then, right? And the controversies over his role in Operation Medusa. In April 2017, public speech in New Delhi, he called himself the architect of Operation Medusa, a September 2006 Canadian offensive to remove the Taliban fighters from around Kandahar. And the Kandahar, like, one of the kids that they waterboarded got $10 million or something settlement from the Canadian government for waterboarding them multiple times. Kid. He played a part in it, apparently. And I remember him back then. Now, the Medusa was usually worked upon by generals and colonels. He was a major at that stage. When an anonymous officer cited the National Post, which first broke the story, called his statement a bald-faced lie. He was supported by Justin Trudeau amidst the calls for the opposition for him to resign. A failed vote of no confidence in Senjab was put forth by the Conservative Party of Canada in the House of Commons, and he was moved from Minister of Defence to Minister of International Development in October 2021 cabinet reshuffle. Yeah, Canada's a fucking piece of shit, is what Canada actually is. Completely captured. The nuclear industry destroyed every facet of a country. This guy's award-winning journalist covering Canadian Forces military issues in Canada. So how can you get award-winning journalism for covering the military for licking their fucking boots all the time? How does that work, I wonder? Time is running out for American victims of nuclear tests, and Congress must do what's right. For communities downwind from the Nevada test site, the Cold War is not ended, and the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act is going to expire next week. That's going to expire next week. We got 1 week. What are they going to do, I wonder? Such a terrible story. Let's go through it. They know they work, and so why do they keep testing? They know the nuclear, this is a quote from this person's brother. They know the nuclear weapons work, so why did they keep testing them? There was almost 1,000 nuclear weapons, so why did they keep testing them? Because it was a nuclear war. The radioactive fallout is the same radioactive fallout, whether it's in anger or the so-called test. The tests were in anger. Why would you do that to your own country? This wasn't a question, but some of the answers I got coming up are quite interesting. It was a statement my brother Mauri Modine made as he was arrested during anti-nuclear test demonstrations in the mid-1980s. More than 400 other protesters, including the actor Martin Sheen, entered the perimeter of the Nevada test site just 65 miles northwest of Las Vegas, where the U.S. government detonated nearly 1,000 full-scale nuclear tests. And even, like the underground tests, you say were underground, they cracked the earth open, everything is vented. There's no such thing as a contained test. It cracks the earth wide open and it vents out of there. In fact, there was one of these underground tests where there was a manhole cover, and it left orbit at about 175,000 miles per hour. It still headed out into deep space. A manhole cover from Earth. It's the fastest moving object ever created by a man. It was ejected from a nuclear test from underground, right? Now, only the government program designed to help thousands of impacted downwind communities. Apparently, the wind only blows one way. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's what downwind means, right? The wind only blows one way. So this is Fukushima, model by the French government based on 31 days total. But this is day 20, right there. And this is day 25. And 31 days. So which spot is not downwind on planet Earth? What spot on Earth is not downwind? And what it was downriver. And so they didn't want to use the word river, so they called downwind. But everybody's downwind. The wind doesn't blow just one direction. And so the idea was not to use the word downriver, because people were starting to use the word downriver. People downriver from the nuclear disease factories. Like downriver from, on the Columbian River from Hanford, everybody should be evacuated. The tens of thousands of farms should be closed. There is no such thing as downwind. And they use downwind now like I's and P's, right? The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act expires on June the 7th unless the House Representative takes nearly immediate action, with only a few working days left for Congress to act. Right? They only got a few days left to work actual Congress. So court ruled U.S. government was negligent on nuclear tests. It was their fault. They were careless. Ample evidence proves the radioactive fallout has devastated Native American communities. What they've done to the Native communities worldwide with these nuclear sites is an agenda. That's an agenda, right? As well as communities across the country and permeated land, water, wildlife, and the entire food chain. Yeah, that's what it does, right? It comes out like a snowstorm, but think of a snowstorm. The snow never stops coming out. Eventually, the whole planet is a snowstorm, and the snowstorm never stops coming from the original destination. The snow never melts, and it never goes away. Now, instead of snow, call it radiation. It never goes away, and it pulses energy almost at the speed of light every second. You know what that is? It's going on for 80 years. It's called climate change. Court rules U.S. government done it on purpose. Even though you may live far enough away not to hear, feel, or see the explosion, you can't escape its repercussion. And the Nevada test site is roughly the size of Rhode Island and sits squarely on the natives' land. They didn't say like what they done in Australia. The British went there, right? They done over 700 dirty bombs. Over 700 dirty bombs. The U.S. government disgracefully referred to the unwitting communities in the path of the radioactive fallout as the low-use segment of the population. The low-use segment of the population. The low-use segment of the population. Is anybody surprised? Anybody shocked? Anybody astounded by that statement? The nuclear industry considers you, everybody, all the species, all the insects, all the birds, all the children, all the puppies, low-use segment of the population. If you're not them, you're a nobody. New Mexicans living near the Trinity test site were told that the detonations of the first atomic bomb was a weapons depot accident and there was nothing to worry about. Have a nice day. And some of them were given like $5 or $10 compensation because they had to leave their community for a couple of days. The U.S. government went on to assure those, if you got to leave your community for a couple of days because of radiation, don't go back. And those near the Nevada test site that the blast posed no dangers, despite scheduling tests when weather patterns were predicted to direct fallout away from the population centers in Las Vegas and California. And children who routinely played in the toxic water of Coldwater Creek in Missouri are now facing cancer diagnoses and other mysterious illnesses that continue to plague the community to this day, like heart problems, liver problems, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, Alzheimer's, dementia. We have been bombed by our own government. So I was in kindergarten when my classmates and I routinely practiced the duck and cover, bomb drills, never knowing that we'd already been bombed by our own country, our own government. More than 2,000 nuclear tests have been conducted worldwide. Well, like the Soviet Union's biggest test was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki bombs, plutonium bombs, going off at the same time. if you look at what, I've done entire presentations on Nagasaki, presentations on Hiroshima, and presentations on Mayak and Sellafield and Windscale and 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl and Fukushima and Fukushima and Fukushima and Fukushima and Fukushima and Fukushima. And my other site with 25,000 subscribers, when I was out looking for spiders, you took it down. That had 1,500 of these presentations on it. Downwind. But, what is downwind? See? When you look at Fukushima radioactive fallout model of the plutonium-239, what is downwind? See, everything is, right? We're downwind. Timmy, we'll be okay. As we found in our research for downwind, every corner of the country, and even parts of Canada, all the United States, all of the planet Earth, were not only touched by the initial Trinity test, they were irradiated by it. Bless their hearts, eh? We were all downwinders. And that word has become so popular you can't have a conversation without the people saying those words. I despise the word downwinder because radiation doesn't blow down just one direction, which is what people are led to believe when you use the word downwind, see? It's a complete misrepresentation of what the wind does. And so it disarms people from understanding the harm their loved ones might have been in. Causes more cancers and chronic radiation-related illnesses. And so they always just radiation illnesses. Heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid. When you're thyroid, you're producing radioactive hormones. Then everything is applicable. You got all the major diseases from radiation. It's not just chronic radiation-related illnesses. You got to give it the prominence it deserves. For the humans and the creatures we share the earth with, affect downwind communities. Downwind. And the downwind version, that's so confusing for me. How about americium 239, neptunium 239? This is only 20-day models. When you see these pictures, these are 20-day models of the radioactive fallout. Everything's downwind. And these models are only based on venting, which is not as much radiation as an atomic bomb would release. So you're talking about every bomb done this to the planet. And you can trace the decrease of all the species and the decline and climate change directly to the inception of the nuclear industry, affecting downwind communities, pushing for decades to improve the RECA to include ordinary citizens. Well, everybody's entitled to RECA, and the reality of it is all the nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms. So you don't need to be a downwinder to get poisoned. You just got to eat from the endless farms around nuclear disease factories, right? Let me give you an example of how evil this industry actually is. I'm always get a little depressed when I think about how many people have these farms poisoned. All nuclear power plants are hemorrhaging radiation. So why are they all surrounded with farms? The fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation. And every year you're adding more fuel to the pool, so there's more emissions each year. Each year you got more emissions. Next year you got even more emissions because the fuel never stops splitting atoms. And thyroid risks last year entitled life after exposures. Why is almost every single nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Is that a coincidence that all nuclear dumps and nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms? Is it a coincidence that they raised the limit for children to get iodate pills for the thyroid glands 75 times higher than the crazies had recommended it for children? Like Fukushima was brutal, and they raised the limit before they would give it to the children, and then refused to say that it got to that limit. Why is every nuclear plant surrounded by farms? And factors contributing to radio cesium variability upland sheep flocks in western Colombia. This was about Chernobyl, but Colombia is right alongside of a nuclear reprocessing disease factory known as Sellafield, which used to be called Windscale because it had a nuclear meltdown where there's still 8 million liters a day hemorrhaging into the Atlantic Ocean. So why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms when there's irreversible heart damage for children with as little as 50 atoms a kilogram? The plants, the tall skinny stacks, are hemorrhaging the radiation from the fuel pools and the incinerators. The Radiation Exposure Compensation Reauthorization Act, passed by the Senate with overwhelmingly bipartisan support in March, would finally right a historical wrong by offering compensation to the people sickened by testing in the West and Guam, as well as communities in St. Louis sickened by the storage of the nuclear waste from the Manhattan Project, the legacy waste, and other victims of radiation exposure in Pacific areas of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alaska. Now the same bill must make its way through the House before the RECA program sunsets next week. And while the Cold War never went nuclear hot, it created hot zones, and these hot zones caused casualties. And the victims of the toxic experiments were put at risk by our own government. It was 800 pregnant women were fed vitamin drinks and vitamin shots by their doctor, were offered them. And they took them. But these weren't vitamin drinks and vitamin shots. They call them vitamin, actually. These were, but they were laced with plutonium and americium and neptunium and strontium and that. And so when the babies aborted or died prematurely, they were dug up after and taken to the national laboratories and ashed in the incinerators, which was sniffed to see what isotopes came from the dead children. This industry knows exactly what they're doing. They have no illusions. People are still getting sick and dying where our government delays what's right. We got another story too about that coming up in a bit. I changed some of the searches so it might show up. Yeah, we got it. Here's one of the radioactive fallout models. This is based 1951 to 1962. And each line represented at least 2 nuclear detonations with the wind blowing in the same way. But the reality, now we know it's actually completely different than that, right? How the fallout actually works. It symmetrically blankets the continents. And the radiation fallout is sustained for a very long time. Many, many years from just a nuclear bomb, for instance, right? Nuclear meltdowns are different. The bottom model is based on 26 days of radioactive fallout. All the models basically are the consensus on all the major institutions and governments worldwide for Fukushima. So this would be the exact same model you would expect to see. It would be from that, except this model would be worse, right? It would be a lot more fallout than what we're seeing in the bottom one there, which is covering the entire planet from all these nuclear. It was almost 1,000 nuclear weapons detonated. Everything's vented. Cracks the earth open. Enormous pressure. It just spews out the radiation. And some of these underground nuclear detonations are still at around 400 degrees today. These caverns that they created, like 700 foot wide, 300 foot deep caverns, are actually still incredibly radioactive, incredibly hot down there. White House announces significant measures to support new nuclear disease factories. They show you farm. And target a carbon-free power sector by 2035. You better get busy. You ain't got any reactors on the books. The last one was 4 times overpriced or something. Working group members would be made up of federal government entities from the White House, Department of Energy, the same old, the regulars, right? They include a range of stakeholders, the project developers, engineers. Well, the engineers, the first thing they're looking for is where the farms are to build a nuclear plant, or nuclear dumps. Procurement, construction, utilities, investors, labor, organization, the mob. The academics, the mob. NGOs, the mob. Small modular reactors. Every time I see it, I blow up laughing. Because it's so ridiculous. Anything that can do, geothermal can do better. Could provide defense installations resilient energy. Yeah, well, anybody's targeting the defense blows up the microreactor and everything at the site is too radioactive to be used. So why would you do that? Why have a nuclear reactor at a military installation when that's going to be the first target? So stupid, eh? Amid the threat of physical, cyber attacks, extreme weather, pandemic, bio threats, and other emerging challenges, well, then nuclear would be the opposite of what you would use, wouldn't it? Something goes wrong, now you got a radiological zone, which complicates things exponentially, orders of magnitudes. Nuclear power has seen increased support in recent years. Where? What are you talking about? It was 1.7 gigawatts last year, 2023, backwards. 2 full nuclear reactors went backwards last year on the total capacity worldwide, 365 gigawatts. And renewables last year was 507 gigawatts. So last year, in 12 months, there was more renewables than the entire capacity of nuclear worldwide came online, and another half again. 500. It was equal to 600 nuclear reactors coming online in 12 months in renewables. Very little of that was geothermal. They don't want geothermal. They're keeping that out of the conversation. The minute the world sees something geothermal on large scale, is the nuclear industry understands that, and so they're trying to loot everything before that happens, right? Including your future and the future of humanity and the 8 million species. There are also more than 3 dozen working designs for small modular reactors and microreactors. 3 dozen designs. Some of which have goals to be commercially operable by 2030. Again, they don't have any applications into the regulatory agencies. And so operational, even at best, would have been at one of the national laboratories experimentally to try to get some of the kinks out. That could take a decade or longer. Proponents say these 3 smaller advanced reactors offer cheaper, faster build times. Proponents. You know, the nuclear lobbying group, right? However, this promise is yet to be fully tested. It's rhetoric is all it is. They can't quantify any of their assertions. NuScale didn't even buy a piece of land to build a reactor on, let alone build a reactor. 90% of the money went to administration. They looted everything. That's all any of them are doing. Nuclear fusion, the true, the false, and the uncertain. Do you really want me to do that again? So 3 years ago, nuclear, I'm not going to read the story because it's, as usual, garbage, right? So 3 years ago, they said they hit criticality, they produced more energy than they put in. And so the media was out, we got to buy stocks in nuclear fusion. They done it! They done it! Well, it turns out, it came out about 6 days later, the excess energy was equal to a 9-volt battery. But you're talking about 300 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures. So how many kettles of water, for instance, can you boil? Because that was the next year, it was November or something, right? 2 years ago, they said they hit nuclear fusion, they had ignition. And they had a net gain of energy. It was equal to boiling, get this, 60 kettles of water, 60 liters of water. And so the question is, at 300 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures, how much water can a fusion reactor boil? And then how do you extrapolate that you had, which it must be a lot. And so how did you extrapolate, 2021, that you had enough excess energy after ignition to power the equal of a 9-volt battery like you're using in your smoke detector? And the following year, they said they have ignition, and it was enough to boil 60 kettles of water. And the stock market couldn't keep up with the demands because all the media worldwide just before Christmas came out and made this exorbitant declaration when it simply wasn't true. It was 100% Ponzi scheme, 100% fraudulent, 100% criminal. And it's just a hype because there was 20 more fusion companies that came online that year, and they needed investors. And so Los Alamos National Laboratory, where it allegedly took place, played the Pied Piper for the investors who were unknowingly used as guinea pigs. The reaction fusion, they say you can make enough material to make a nuclear bomb in about 2 weeks. You remember that story from last week? It creates enormous amount of neutrons too. Neutron, very bad for humanity in the 8 million species. That neutron. For instance, it promised to start producing energy from a fusion plant by 2028. No startup has shown evidence that they reached the stage of development needed to roll out fusion to the market in the near term, and startups still need to demonstrate their system's net energy gain. Startups will need to build pilot plants to prove the concept. They got to raise enough capital to make the plants will likely be tricky. And first generation stations likely to be costly and unreliable as part of innovation. But see, if you took all this energy and all this resource and all this monetary and all these precious metals and this endless monetary you put into it and academics and flipped that and used that to get the final 2 miles at a geothermal, we wouldn't have any of these conversations, would we? Because everybody would be screeching for geothermal. Let's get rid of that stupid gas, oil, coal, nuclear plants. Build something geothermal. How long is it going to take us? 10 years, 12, 14 years? No, dude, 6 months, 9 months. We can have it up and running. 2 Samsung workers were exposed to radiation, Nuclear Commission said. They gave an employee of the month free pizzas and told him to go home, get sick and die. The employees were hospitalized for abnormal radiation symptoms in their hands. Oh, you mean the guinea pigs? Following exposures to X-rays on May 27th. It took place at Samsung's Jinhong chip plant about 25 miles south of Seoul, South Korea. Right, South Korea. Like, if the world really knew how many of these types of accidents they have every week worldwide, you would turn nuclear off in a heartbeat. Use of the machine has apparently been suspended. Apparently, we don't know for sure. For special moments, like some child needs to be irradiated, we'll do it. Funeral homes needs business too, right? And the agency says it plans to figure out exactly how much radiation they were exposed to. How are you going to figure it out exactly? How are you going to put that genie back in the bottle and figure it out, I wonder? Young Voices International Security, Raven Witherspoons. She's a certified genius. She's a certified genius. She's got all kinds of education. My goodness. She interned at Brookhaven Disease Factory, the Brookhaven National Laboratory. They've poisoned everybody within 50 miles or so of that peninsula. They're down on the Florida Peninsula, right? The neighbors all hate their guts. Everybody got cancer in the neighborhoods. A lot of people in the field joke that all the aquifers are poisoned because of Brookhaven. A lot of people in the field joke that no one ever chose to work on nuclear issues. We just kind of fall into it. Yeah, tell me about it. For example, when I started my current position, was my first time researching nuclear risk full time. It's heavy. Get a load of this one. I spent 8 hours a day, 8 hours on research, then listen to nuclear podcast on my way home. Well, I bet you never heard of Dana. You never listened to my podcast. I'm the most prolific producer, too. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that can match me in production over my time, right? I produced absurd. It's absurd. Let's say it's absurd how much, like over 600 radio, over 1,500 presentations on my last site. They stroke of a key, gone. Book burners, typically 2 hours, right? All the research expeditions for 6 years. And then how many we got on this site? Over 700 on this site. All of them hardcore too. All of them packed. And a lot of people take it for granted. See, I've been here for so long. I'm so familiar for a lot of people. But just every day it's a struggle to do what I do. It's a brutal struggle to keep this whole thing moving forwards. You can't take time off. You got to dedicate yourself to it, or it never happens, right? And last year I had a rough year. Everything went wrong last year. Heart attacks and everything, breakdowns. It was a terrible year. We got through it, and then listened to Nuclear Podcast on their way home. Yeah. Do you think she's aware that Fukushima looks like that? Anybody really think she's aware that the Medusa, which is reactor 3, to your left, and this Medusa blowing up, that's the fuel pools in the reactor cores getting ejected out of a building. How do you put that genie back in the bottle? Oh, that's right, you don't. Covers the entire planet, right? Marshallese worries span decades. First nuclear test, like Castle Bravo, and they show you this picture, of course. No, hang on. This picture. Looks familiar, don't it? The Baker explosion, which was 23 kilotons. So this was another one of these sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyball events. This was all these ships were incredibly radioactive because the sulfur, the peroxide, uranol peroxide, hydrogen buckyballs. It's nasty stuff, man. It's a problem forever too, right? These are going to be here long past the human experience. They got 2.7 million cubic feet stored in a crater, a nuclear bomb crater. They put a dome, the Runit dome, which is leaking heavily. The whole story's a nightmare. And the Bravo test, which is equal to 1,000 Nagasaki's going off, plutonium bomb, 1,000 plutonium bombs going off at the same time, was the worst radiological disaster in the United States testing history. Right, the explosion from that contaminated lethal doses 5,000 miles out to sea. Small nuclear reactors are still, just nuclear reactors. And look at farmland in the background. Wherever nuclear, death is sure to follow. They can ship the food all over the country and get you that way. Ship it to other countries and get them that way. There always seems to be a nuclear power renaissance just over the horizon. The latest version involves small modular reactors. Reactors into 25 to 300 megawatt. Well, 300 megawatt is not going to go on the back of a transport truck, or even on 100 of them, as opposed to the traditional large reactors. These little guys are supposed to be quicker to build, cheaper, suitable, leap-tall buildings, and so on. And the problem is they're just nuclear reactors. And the poster child for the small modular reactor revolution was NuScale, the scumbags from Oregon. And the project cost was supposed to be $5.3 billion. Last year, ballooned to $9.3 billion. But the estimates from Iceberg was that it was going to cost about $22 billion for less than 500 megawatts. They had no intentions of building it either, right? That company's been there since 2000, 24 years. Still haven't built anything. Got a lot of money, though. No one knows where that went. Projects that are supposed to take 3 or 4 years always take 12 to 13. And reports found similar cost increase in other major small modular reactor companies' plans as well. In 2015, X Energy estimated these reactors could be built for $5,000 per kilowatt. But last year it was triple that. That's how they get in the door, right? They come at these ridiculous low numbers, and people buy into it, and they're like, oh, by the way, we forgot to mention. We triple that, quadruple. Oh, it'll be what it's going to be. You'll get nuclear, though. You'll love it. You'll learn to love it. It's exhibited a negative learning curve, getting harder to build as time goes by. Climate change goal 2050, the nice round year that the world has pegged its net zero, which is a paper by Miles Allen. It's got nothing to do with it. It's like the United Nations seeing an opportunity to bludgeon humanity, and that's what that was all about. It's only 26 years away, so how many 13-year projects, multi-billion-dollar cost overrun, are really getting built in that time frame? They don't have any on the books. You're going to have a nuclear renaissance. Their nuclear renaissance is extending the life of the reactors they got that are already brittle from neutron bombardment, right? That should have been decommissioned 10, 15, 20 years ago. Gamma tomography of spent nuclear fuel for geological repository safeguard. The problem is you put the high-level fuel down in a hole and walk away, and it melts down eventually. Could be a year, could be 5, 20, 30, no more than 40 or 50 years is going to melt down. And it's going to burn. It doesn't need oxygen, so it'll burn at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, and it'll incinerate all the other stuff alongside of it till they're all burning, and get water get in there, ingress into that now because of the enormous heat. It'll bring water in, and then water expands, per liter, 1,400 cubic feet in a millisecond, right? So you can imagine that happening, splitting the earth open, and now you have all these assemblies burning at temperatures, and you can't put water on it because it's detonate. They're going to destroy the future of humanity for billions of years or longer. All spent nuclear fuel will be deposited in the bedrock, will be measured with a method and device that has been developed in a doctoral research thesis being defended on the 4th of June 2024 at the University of Helsinki. The final disposal operation being prepared to start next year in Finland. So they're talking about Finland, the first place in the world to put a bunch of nuclear fuel in a hole in the ground. And I advocate strongly against it because it will melt down. That's the like it's splitting atoms. That's the problem with nuclear. It's splitting atoms. And once you displace the oxygen, it's very volatile. What's driving the bull run in uranium? Sprout Physical Trust showed up a couple of years ago, right out of the blue, and they bought all the physical uranium here in Canada, for instance. Which wasn't a lot, it was like £1 million, I believe it was. $30 a pound or something like that. I don't even think it was that much. And so now the mining companies had to get into gear. So there was this artificial inflation created by buying. Now they didn't sell it, they didn't take possession of it, they left it where it's to, and they just owns it. And they're not going to use it. So they created an artificial a demand for mining, right? So the mining company says, well, we're going to start up because there's a demand for like over, they want 1 million pounds of uranium-308. This is big stuff. But people didn't realize that this company showed up and was about to capitalize on them investing. It's going to steal their money. And so it didn't take them long. They're up to $1 billion. It went from 30 million to $1 billion and then they got a whole lot more investors. And so now they've done the same thing in other countries. And that created an artificial inflation because there was a demand for uranium, and so the investors seen the prices going up and said, I want to buy into that because the stock market is just ruthless when it comes to uranium. Even the lawyer firms are just selling these stocks. And so they were robbing tens of thousands of communities, pensioners, of their life savings. And that's been going on post Fukushima nonstop, right? The Globe and Mail was doing it 3 times a week, but it wasn't until Sprott Physical Uranium Trust showed up and took possession of it or bought it and just left it where it was and wouldn't sell it, created that artificial, and so that's the whole thing is running on that scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme, and at some point it's going to crash. And it was shocking. They got up to over $100 a pound by using this scam. It's a 100% scam. And so obviously the stock market is very corrupt. They allowed this to happen. Nuclear energy role has become crucial, particularly given the global energy crisis began in 2021, when Russia invaded Ukraine. And then all United Nations was told they had to embargo the only spot to get gas, oil, coal quantities and qualities necessary for their countries. And they had no way of replacing it, so they caused this artificial inflation worldwide by proxy. It was 100% on purpose, meant to do exactly that. It resulted from a swift post-COVID economic recovery that outstripped energy supplies. That's simply not true. Oh, and worsened by Ukraine. No, it was caused by Russia and Ukraine. And in fact, when it happened, when the United Nations came out and said all 195 of our slave countries, of our drone countries, have to put an embargo against Russia's commodities, neither country could replace those commodities. It's like so you got a big family, and you're at the mall and you go to get a parking spot, and the mayor comes in and steals your parking spot, and you're like, well, I'm not paying the water bill. And so they cut the water off, and your kids are begging, come on, Mom, pay the water bill. We can't get washed, we can't do laundry, we can't brush our teeth. No, not doing it. And it just keeps that going until the kids move out, get their own homes, and gets water. It's stupid, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so stupid because you can't replace it. United Nations says you can't buy it. You couldn't get it from anywhere else. And so you create this massive inflation that penalizes the most vulnerable of society many times worse than the rest of the people. Everybody's affected by it. And it was shocking what they done to us. There's millions of companies went under because of the COVID. And then immediately have this inflation show up. You created this immense poverty. And so people are too busy trying to survive to look at what this industry is continuing to do to their countries and their continents and the species and their future, right? It's really terrifying that people are actually that evil. Consequently, uranium became the new darling in the commodity spaces as prices soared above $100 a pound last year. After a decade-long decline from $143 to $18. Yeah, it went down to $18 the day after they convicted me and gave me 6 gag orders. That was when it hit $18 a pound that next day. Because it made it to the news, 1600 media. Said, we got him. They were like, we got him, like I was Saddam Hussein or something. We got him. They were bragging about it for weeks. It didn't slow me down. It didn't stop me. I came in off the ocean from a 6-month research expedition, and they arrested me and gave me gag orders so I couldn't tell you for 3.5 years what they were doing. Move. And now they have stalked me, and they spread so many rumors about me. I can't do anything, only nuclear. They dug a hole I can't even get out of. I'm forced to do nuclear because I can't do anything else. I don't have the resources anymore because of all the demonization of me for so many years. The only thing I can do is beat the shit out of them every day. So I do. Nuclear Regulatory Commission names a permanent CIO, Scott Flounders. He was licking some boots really hard and he got promoted. You get a permanent CIO position Sunday. Is charged with managing and employing technology to enhance information access and strengthen agencies' performance. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission release states, additionally, the Flounders Office is also charged with overseeing cyber and information security, data management, artificial intelligence. Oh, he's a busy boy. He's making a lot of money, this boy. Additionally, he serves as the Deputy Director of the Division of the Waste Management. So, he's a super scumbag. Get it? He's so evil, they put him in charge of the Deputy Director of Division of Waste Management. So that only the most vicious scumbag would get that particular job.
So one of the questions was, did I have enough cloth to do the back of the boat? So I took it out of its case.
I got to buy
I have to
resin
step
in the
back a
mail.
few inches. Not much room here. It's all taken up
That's
by
awesome.
the cloth.
Because I got to do the floor inside the boat also, right? I got to build legs for the back of the transom. I got to reinforce the whole transom. So I got to put multiple layers on, right? But I got to rebuild it, so I got the fiberglass for that and the floor, and I need the fiberglass for that. I'm going to do the fenders with fiberglass too, and I got lots of it here to show you.
Well, that means I got enough to do the front floor too, right? Because that's why I got 10 pounds. Because that front floor piece is still only wood we need to reinforce it.
Couple liters of resin too.
Should be a little bit left over. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. Man, it rained
So
all
we
day,
got
so I found
a
another
light.
light that I had there.
To replace that spot down there.
It rained all day
problem
today.
is-
Eh?
It's friggin' raining like crazy. So the idea is to get a break in the rain here in a little bit, and then I'm going to jack up the trailer and pull the tires off.
And which, of course, I had done as the day went on. And you can see I got the lights on.
Had a little break in the wind, so I'm just waiting for the next break, and I'll come out and show the hot gun on it.
And so it doesn't. I got soaking wet today doing this. I mean, soaking. You know, where you got to put your jacket and your hat and your clothes in the dryer because it's so wet. I wouldn't believe how wet I actually got today. Well, we got all of that. We got that done. And
Oh, freaking believable, isn't it?
done this all day, eh?
Drives me nuts.
And I got electrocuted once today. That was pretty good. Pretty proud of that. You can see I got the tires off. I got her jacked up. You know what I'm up to next.
All right.
So I had to
Get everything loosened
so
up.
now I got everything centered up again. I'm going to weld.
Got the new light installed.
I'm going to weld. I chopped out another chunk. I think I got a video of that coming up.
What I should be doing is taking off these two, the front ones, and drilling a new hole up here.
I'm not going to try that.
And cutting off the bottom piece.
I'm not going to try that.
So I just chopped that out with the
So
grinder.
I started chopping it out, but I
Both
kept getting
sides.
driven in because of all the rain, right?
On both sides.
So I'm
Now I'm going to go
slowly.
take.
That took a while. I got a little.
Probably going to give it up today for right here.
I almost, because I got electrocuted, eh?
Right here.
With the grinder, got wet. Woo! That was rough.
Phew. So we got two pieces chopped
So we
out.
chopped out both of those pieces, got them off.
And might have to chop this back a bit more.
So tomorrow I'll weld the back section.
This little section. And so when I do everything, that'll allow the trailer to come up.
And so the plan is...
So the idea is to weld this
both sides of that so it can't fold.
Once I find the spot. Because we want this to be able to ride up and not touch.
So I chopped out
normally
that
we
other
touch
piece.
that, right? So we chopped out both sides.
I chopped out the extra chunks.
And then that'll allow that to maintain that position and give us some,
which
and
is
have
the
some
natural
flexibility
position,
for a really
right?
bad hit, right? And soaking wet, so I guess that's it.
Day.
Mission accomplished so far today. It just won't give up raining, so I had to work in the rain and
everything is soaking wet. Look at the shit. Everything is soaking. Well, we got all that done today, and so to let me see here what we got here. Looking for one shot. Yeah, it was a pretty miserable day. Hang on, I'll find it. Maybe I won't, who knows? Yeah, it must be this one here. No, that's not it. I thought I had a shot inside the boat. Still dry inside the boat. So tomorrow it's going to be 19 degrees. I'll chop out the back piece and we'll fiberglass a new piece in there, and then I have to put 2 or 3 sheets of fiberglass over it. And then the floor, I have to deflate the Zodiac and do the floor and inflate everything when I put it back together, move it off the trailer, then weld up those 2 forward pieces and put the wheels back on. And so that way we won't have that issue no more, right? I was just too enthusiastic to... That's the same one, is that? So now it's where it's supposed to be anyway. We'll fix it tomorrow. We'll get there tomorrow. Let's look at the poll. Let's get ready to close the poll down, I suppose. Would nano-nuclear... Hang on. Would nano-nuclear small modular reactors sent on trucks be massive dirty bombs when they catch fire and collisions? I don't know. What do you think? I think it would be. Atomic power. This is one of the propaganda signs back in the 50s. The nuclear industry was very influential, wasn't it? Let me thank everybody for participating in the poll. Thank you, everybody. Good stuff. See everybody tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's Thursday night, the last show of the week. And
you remember 2 great cities in a distant foreign land, when scorched from the face of earth their power of Japan.
how we doing here? I'm trying to get up to the 2-hour mark before I go. Before we call it a night, but the song will be over before that. I have to restart the song. It's a joke. Who knows what day night, eh? Just another thing to notice. I'm staying here for till the hit 2 hours. Another thing to remember was that they didn't start building the ALP system until 2013, February 11, 2013. And in 2014, in August, they said by the end of the year or early 2015, they should have the kinks out of it. But there is no filtration system because, remember, we're talking about huge amounts of inventory were completely lost. And so what that means, of course, is that the filters become so radioactive you can never get near them again, right? You can never get near them again. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, good night, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. I'm just trying to get the video. Just trying to get the video up to the 2-hour mark before it gives up. I'm doing an experiment here tonight, so. That's it. That's the 2-hour mark right there, isn't it? Okay, well, we'll call it a night, I guess. If you make it this far, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. One of the hardest things to get it at these days is a thumbs up. You get to stay on my video. Thanks, Nuclear. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.